Hello and welcome to CPS Web Tips for Winshuttle. My name is Jeff Dunn. A little bit about me. I've spent over 14 years in SAP, a lot of it with using Winshuttle tools like transaction and query within Studio for data management and conversion from legacy systems to SAP. I've been with CPS for 3 years, working also with Winshuttle Workflow and again, the Studio products. Today's topic is creating sales price conditions with Studio, and sales price conditions are a little bit tricky in SAP. There's a lot of different options and things to wade through, so we're going to look at a little bit of that. So like most Studio transaction scripts, we're going to create price conditions using Excel data to upload data to SAP in a batch process. So sort of the default condition price creation transaction that people use is VK11, which you create a condition or you enter the condition type, and then it will give you a list of key combinations of the key fields, whether it's on the header or the detail. This is the simplest way to create a price condition, but it can also be a little bit tricky with Winshuttle because that key combination dialog that pops up could vary in length. It could be multiple screens that you would have to scroll through. And the position is hard to predict of where a particular key combination is going to be because it's filtered to the condition type that you enter. So if you entered a different condition type, then the customer material one might be in a different position. The second transaction, there's a bunch of others, but the second transaction we can use is VK15. Here you enter condition type and a table number that's assigned to that key combination. So we saw that list on the dialog. That's basically each one has a table number, a 3-digit number assigned. This is better for batch loads where you have different condition types and key combinations that you're working with. We're going to look at how to determine that table number, or how you can look that up in a couple different ways and where it shows up. And again, the table defines the key combination, but it also defines the screens that will appear next after this initial screen, which we have to handle in Winshuttle Studio. And then we're going to add a condition loop for each possible table that you're going to record with. In this case, we're only going to do a couple, but you can see how you can scale that up. And like with every transaction script, you want to do basically 4 main steps. We've got an extra step here, but the first step is to review the screens in SAP. And in this case, review the transactions that you might want to use. To look at the screens, look at the fields that you're gonna record, what buttons you need to use to be able to advance to the next line within the detail, for example. The second step is to actually record using what you just found out during that first step. And then we're going to record for each condition type in this case. So we're going to record the script twice and then merge those 2 scripts. You map the fields to the template, from the SAP field to the column in the template. And then, as I said, we're going to combine the scripts, adding conditions to determine which part of the script to use, or which screens to use, basically, for which key combinations. And then the final step, but a very important one, is to test and to use representative data to try to encounter any issues you might have with the data. For example, in this case, sales price conditions, you might want to check what happens when you create a price condition for a range that already exists for that material or that key combination. Okay, so we're going to start with that SAP process, looking a little bit at the screens that we're going to work with, and then we'll dive into the script recording. So again, VK11 is sort of the default transaction for this. You have a key combination button here on the toolbar that shows that list that's assigned to the condition type that's entered. In this case, we're going to work with material and customer material. So if you choose that customer material is selected and you go to the next screen, here's the customers at the header level and the materials at the detail level. But that's pretty basic. So we're going to record, we determined we need to record to the material column and the amount column, and in this case, the unit column, I think is required. It's the currency in this case. So, and then we'll look at a second on how to do the second and further lines of the detail. Okay, so that's VK11. As I said, the problem with it is that key combination dialog that pops up is a little bit unpredictable. So if we go to VK15, we have an extra field for table number. We still have the key combination here, and you could get to the next screen using that, but you can also do it with this table number. And if we click on the search button, we see a list of tables. But these are all of the table numbers, not just for this condition type. So there is a table in SAP you could view through SC16 that has all these condition types assigned to the table numbers assigned to the condition types. But we just happen to know that 304 and 305 is what we want. So we're going to do 304. We'll see in a second how you could sort of verify it. So if you go to the help on any field in SAP, you can get to the technical information. And it gives you the name of the field and the screen name. So in this case, the screen number is 1304. So it always adds a 1 in front of that table number that we entered on the previous screen. So for the next one, we're going to do 305. It'd be 1305 for the screen number. So that's sort of how you can verify what table number you think you need to use. Okay, so in this case, we're going to enter a material, an amount, and a currency, and hit enter. And then if we see down here, what we always have to find when you have a detail and you want to do a loop around this, you need to be able to predict a line that you can write to every time. So you can't determine what the last line is if it's not in the same position. So we need that to be in the same position. And the way to do it on this transaction is to use create entries. And we'll always add a line to and shift the, we'll see this in a second, but it'll shift it up to the, so that the blank line is on the second line. So let's put another price in and again, hit enter. And then if we do that again, if we do new price, see it shifted the first row up. So there's always, the blank line is always going to be on the second row. So this will help us record the script so that we always know that we can write to that row. And then once we're done with entering all of our detail, then we would just hit save. So we won't do that. So we won't create any data here. Okay, so that's the planning stage. We've basically seen the fields and the screens that we have to work with. So let's leave that. Okay, so let's record. So if we go to Studio, Transaction, Create from Recording. Log into SAP if you haven't. The script we're going to use, or the transaction we're going to use is VK15. You can leave default for everything else unless you have issues with the recording. Here we're going to enter our condition type. We've already looked up the table numbers, so we know what we're going to use there. Sales org and distribution channel. So that the first line we enter is not going to be inside the loop. It's going to be with the header information. So we're just going to enter the first line along with the sales org and the distribution channel before we hit enter. So I just hit enter there to commit that line. And now if we do the new, which on the first line you don't see it do anything because it doesn't have to scroll up that line. But it would basically scroll it up so that the last line entered is going to be the first row, and then we are going to enter data on the second row. So whenever you're recording a script, you need to make sure you touch every field that you possibly would want to use, even if it doesn't apply. In this case, we're always entering the same fields, but if there's something else you think you need, like valid from or whatever, you would just have to enter data on that. So again, we're going to hit enter and new line. Okay, so now we're done and we hit save. Okay, so let's see what we have from the recording. On the map, I'm on the map tab. If you go to expert, we entered on the initial screen, we entered these two fields, the table number and the condition type. On the next screen, we entered the sales org and the distribution channel in the top section, and then in the detail, we entered the material information and the price. We created a new line, entered all of this on the second line. You can see the second line here. Again, as I mentioned, the table number is incorporated in the screen name, so you see that in these screen names and everything except the first row or the first section, which is a common initial screen. So again, we entered the second line information. We had new line. And then this last section is the save price condition, or save and create. Okay, so we have some mapping to do. So let's map the log down to column A. Let's put the condition type, column B. Condition table is going to be in column C. I'm just left clicking and drag and drop is the way it works. Distribution channel. Now we're going to do a header detail loop. So let's save column F for the H or the D and start the material at column G, the price at column H, and finally the currency at I. So we have the first row, which is entered, like I said, along with the header detail. The next row is going to be a D, so we'll do the material. Price. And the currency. It didn't do it this time, but sometimes your mapping will try to default to a no, that did work. Yeah, so it should be replace in this case. So G. Okay, so we have oh, and then now we need to put a detail loop around around this section here. Okay, so under mapping, you can create a loop. And again, we're going to use column F. Okay, so we're going to say okay here. So we don't actually need this other one. It's going to create a new line at the beginning of each loop, so we can get rid of this one. And then at the end, we'll hit save. Okay, so this script is done. We can save this. That's fine. Okay, so we're going to try to do this. So the second condition scenario would have been the customer and the material. I already recorded that, so we don't have to walk through it again. It's the same process as the first time. We just we have an additional field of customer at the header. So what we'll do is we'll try to put both transaction scripts on the screen at the same time. One second. Okay, so so on the left here is the one that we just recorded, and on the right is the script that takes customer number into account and uses 305 instead of 304 for the table number. So you see the one difference is, and it's unmapped at the moment, is the customer number, and I forgot to include a place for that. So we'll see how to do that in a second. So we're going to merge these two scripts. So we need the again, we need everything where the screen number is different. So this is 1305 and these are 1304. So we're going to copy all of these screens. Left clicked and held down shift to select the last line. So we selected the whole range. You can right click or you can say copy. Actually, you can't do copy. So you got to do Control C. And then we'll paste that before this one. Try that again. So you need to do each screen one at a time here. Okay, and then we're going to have to paste. I think we need to do the ones that are inside the loop separate. So paste that here. I'm just doing Control C and Control V. And then the last one is the save command we're going to paste here. And you'll see what we're trying to do here in a second. Okay, so all of this group is going to be need to be under a condition that is based on the table number. So we're going to create a condition that says this is table 305. So we're going to say column C has the condition number in it. then within that, and actually let's do the same thing here. So this is 304, all the way to the bottom. Create a condition. And it needs to be hard-coded because you would have to follow this process for every possible condition table because you're going to have different fields on the screen for each one. So 305. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is create a loop around the 305. I'm sorry, this should have been 304. Last one is to create a loop around these detail sections here. So you just do the loop, just like we did before. It's going to be column F. Want to do preserve if that's an option, so that we don't shift any of the columns, and then you hit OK. So okay, so the last thing to do is to update the columns so that we have, we really want column, let's say column H, or no, actually, I guess column F. We really want column F to be the customer number. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to take the customer and drag column F up to it. Actually, that looks like it's going to shift everything. For now, I'll just put it in column J, but you would really want to make sure that you plan for that better than I did. So, okay, so we're going to just make sure it's going to be reserved. Okay, so we need to okay, so that's good. Okay, so that's it. So you basically have two conditions. You start off with the table number goes in the initial screen, and then it's used in the two conditions. Each condition has a detail loop, and at this point, you would want to do some testing. So what we saw was a method for dealing with screens that can change depending on the data, which in this case was the condition key field, or the key fields combination. And you could use condition loops to do it. And we've recorded different scripts, but you could actually go in and edit the script to point to a different screen name. In this case, the screens were very similar, but they actually had different IDs. So that's our presentation. We have all of our web tips are on our YouTube page, so you can find them there. Past tips going back a few years. We have a new web tip every month on the third Thursday. And if you have any suggestions for web tips, we're always open to presenting topics that most interest you or that address the challenges that you're facing. So please send them our way. And thanks very much. Have a great day, and see you next time.